You asked for it. You wanted some frequently asked questions about the Sony A7R II. So I went on Amazon, eBay, Google, Digital Goja's website for customer service questions. I scoured the internet. Now it's going to be broken up into two parts. We're going to have the beginner section and we're going to have the advanced section. As always, if this video helps you, don't forget to hit me up with a like button underneath and subscribe to the channel. And if you're in Miami, come say hello at Digital Goja showrooms. Let's get started with some of the most frequently asked questions on the Sony A7R II by beginners. Can I back up my images through Wi-Fi on my Sony A7R II? Absolutely, and they made it rather simple. Notice that you have multiple options: send to smartphone, send to computer. You can even view them on a TV. Of course, this is a very sophisticated system and Sony seems to have pat it down correctly. I mean, they really have it set to work efficiently and a lot more advanced than some of the systems that are out there. Very simply, you're going to go to the Play Memories store and download the Play Memories Home app. Install it on your favorite laptop, desktop, or smartphone or tablet. As a matter of fact, if you're going to work with an Android device, they made it really simple because you can just do the NFC to connect. So very simple to work with the Sony Play Memories app to back up your images on your A7R II. Can I use my E-series crop sensor lenses on my Sony A7R II? Absolutely. Remember, Sony helped you out by using the same mount. And there's an added benefit. Let me show you how easy this works. First, I have my trusty 28 f2, and notice how it's designated as 42 megapixel, which is a default. But now I'm going to put an E-series lens. I'm going to put my trusty 50 millimeter. Yep, this was a very popular lens back on my NEX. Now, notice how it defaults to 18 megapixels. So it automatically compensates for using a crop sensor lens and makes your life so much easier so you can swap out lenses and not have to get rid of your E-series crop sensor lenses for your A7R II. Does the electronic viewfinder on my Sony A7R II work with the camera off? No, because it is an electronic viewfinder. It's not a DSLR, so you're not looking at a reflection off of a reflex mirror, and it's not a hybrid viewfinder like some of the other mirrorless that have that feature. This is a fully electronic viewfinder, so you do need the camera to be on. And remember, it will switch with the sensor back and forth from your screen to your electronic viewfinder. Can I shoot at different resolutions with my Sony A7R II? Absolutely. You don't always have to shoot at 42 megapixels. Notice how you open up your camera menu and go to your first folder, and the first one there, image size. Click on it. You can do 42 megapixel default, 18, or all the way down to 11 megapixels. So if you want to save card space and you don't want your camera to take up too much room, you can shoot at a lower resolution. How many batteries come with my Sony A7R II? Well, absolutely 2 of them. Sony got wise and they know that you need power management. So you get 2 of the NP-FW50 1020 milliamp batteries. I honestly recommend getting some extra ones. And then also remember, this is also USB power capable. But guess what? If you don't want to walk around with some unwieldy power bank, maybe walk around with a pocket of these. They're small enough, or get yourself a grip. But you always receive 2 with your A7R II. Is there a higher milliamp battery for my Sony A7R II? No, it's still 1020 milliamps. And remember, that's why Sony gives you 2 batteries. So guess what? Get a hold of a grip, and that way you can work with both batteries at the same time. Always think ahead and have extra batteries, but there are no higher milliamp batteries for the NP-FW50. Are there fast primes available for my Sony A7R II? Absolutely. Sony themselves keeps bringing out more and more every day. There are 50mm 1.8, there are Sonar 55 1.8, there are crop sensor ones. You still have stuff like a 35mm 1.8 and the 85 1.4 and more to come. Plus you have some available from other manufacturers like Zeiss, Sigma. Sigma themselves came out with a 30mm 1.4 and an E-mount. And remember, Sigma has the MC11 adapter that allows you to work with some of their more popular Canon mount lenses in the art and contemporary series, like for example their 18 to 35 1.8, or if you need a wider perspective, their 20mm 1.4. So absolutely you have a vast selection of fast primes for your Sony A7R II. Is there a sensor cleaning mode in my Sony A7R II? Absolutely. For a pro camera like this, there better be. Let me show you where it is. It's very simple to find. We're going to go to the last tool setting, which is the toolbox, and then we're going to go to the third folder, and there's your cleaning mode. You're going to click on that, and you're going to hit enter, and there it did it. The auto cleaning is finished. You can power off, and you can also clean the sensor manually if necessary. Honestly, I think that usually this mode does the job for you. Can I use my Canon Speedlight in TTL mode with my A7R II? No, you cannot. Only on manual. Reason why, and you also have to be very careful about this, this is the multi-interface pin connector on the shoe. You cannot damage those, because if you damage those and at one point you do step up to something like an HVL-32M, you're going to need those so that your flash can communicate properly with the hot shoe on your A7R II. And remember, that also works for microphones and other accessories that are put out by the Sony Corporation. So Speedlights from other manufacturers, fully manual, and be very careful with the multi-interface pins. How do I set my Sony A7R II for RAW recording? Well, turn on the camera, you have to access your menu, and notice it's going to be in the first folder, which is the camera settings. Scroll down to quality, and then you have the capability of doing RAW and JPEG or just RAW. And once you make that decision, then you can actually even change whether you want your RAW file to be compressed or uncompressed. It all depends on what size memory card and how much space you have on it. Is the Sony A7R II weather sealed? Well, Sony states it does have dust proofing and moisture sealing, but it is not splash proof. So you have to be careful in the environment that you work with it. Actually, there's plenty of rain covers out on the market, so you don't have any issues if you're working in a really wet, harsh environment. That way you can protect your Sony A7R II. Can I use two memory cards with the Sony A7R II? No, you may not. It only allows you to work with the SDXC card UHS 2 version, but only one card at a time. Can I do silent shooting with my Sony A7R II? Absolutely, but you're going to have to change a couple of settings on your menu. Let me show you. Because right now, if you touch it, it's going to make a noise and it's going to beep when it focuses. So notice you want to go into the tool setting all the way down on the first folder to where it says audio signals. Believe it or not, that's the one that turns off the beeping from your focus. And then we're going to go all the way over to the system settings. And we're going to go over to the fifth folder to where it says silent shooting. And we're going to turn that on. So now the camera makes absolutely no noise when you fire away. Can I do time-lapse with the A7R II? Yes, but not built into the camera. You have to go to the Play Memory store. So we're going to go into our menu, and you want to go into this square right here, that's the folder that allows you to go into your application list. Click on that, and notice where it says Play Memories Camera Apps. That's where you want to activate it. Of course, you have to have an access point, and I'm using the one inside the showroom. And there you have it, time lapse for $9.99. So you get that downloaded onto your A7R II, and now you can do time lapse photography. Can I do HDR bracketing with my A7R II? Absolutely. We have to first go into the menu, and let's go over here to the first menu, and there we go. We're going to go to the fifth folder and scroll down to HDR, and we're going to either set it to auto, or you can pick the different levels in your HDR optimization. So there you have it. Does my A7R II have geotagging? No, it does not. I even went into the application list and the Play Memories camera apps, and I couldn't find anything about geotagging. But what you could do is you could download a third-party app onto your smartphone, and then you have to make sure that you have the time exactly on your camera as on your smartphone. So that way, when you sync them up, your smartphone transfers that geotag information to the files from your camera correctly. Does my Sony A7R II have sweep panoramic built in? Absolutely, that's a very popular Sony invention. You have to flip it to this mode, and then notice how you can actually, by changing this toggle wheel, change the direction that you want to sweep to do your sweep panoramic. And when you do that, you can create images just like that. So very simple. Does my Sony A7R II have built-in neutral density filters? No, I'm afraid not. I couldn't find it in the application store either. But you can still do it the old-fashioned way. What you have to worry about is your filter diameter thread. 72 millimeter. That means you can find a vast selection of neutral density filters, whether you want to buy them individually, in sets, or variable neutral density filters. Let's get started with the most frequently asked questions about the Sony A7R II for advanced users. Does the Sony A7R II have overheating issues while recording video? Well, that was a problem in previous versions of firmware, but now Sony issued firmware 3.0, and that's been completely eliminated. So you need to check the firmware on your A7R II body. Very simple. You're going to go into your menu. You're going to go into your toolbox, and you want to go to the last folder and scroll down to version, and you want to make sure that it is version 3.0 or higher. That should eliminate any issues of overheating while recording video. Does the Sony A7R II have USB 3.0? No, it does not. It has USB 2.0. Notice how you have your standard micro USB adapter that ends in standard USB 2.0. There's a reason for that. A lot of us want bus power. So I can go ahead and activate that in the settings menu, and there it is. USB power supply on, and now you can use an external power source for your A7R II using USB 2.0. Does the Sony A7R II offer slow motion video? Absolutely. Now, of course, it won't be at 4K, it'll be at 1080. We have to set it to video mode like I did right here. Then we're going to hit our menu button. Turn on the camera, always works better. And then we're going to go to the first menu, to the second folder. You're going to set it to XAVC SHD. And it's recommended that if you're going to do 120 frames per second, so you can get a lot of slow motion effect, you want to make sure that you're going to set your appropriate shutter speed to double the frame rate. So that means that you'll be shooting at around 2/50th of a second. and then you set your appropriate f-stop accordingly. Does the Sony A7R II work with adaptable lenses for all your focusing modes? Absolutely. I have, for example, here the new Sigma MC11 adapter with a very popular Canon mount Art Series lens, the 50mm 1.4. And notice how I can go into my function settings, activate my focus area, and I can move to all the different ones, whether I want to do center or zone focus, flexible spot, and notice how I can move the spot around and it's going to lock the focus there. Or if I want to go ahead now and go to expandable flexible spot, I can do that also, and notice I can move it up to the display in the background and it brings it into focus. So you can do anything as far as focusing with adaptable lenses and your Sony A7R II. Can I use the battery grip from my previous A7R? No, I'm afraid not. You do have to get the new one, which is called a VGC 2EM. It attaches very easily down here. You're going to remove the battery door, and it's going to work with 2 of your NP-FW50 batteries. All right, so you shot some incredible 4K video with your A7R II, and now you want to do a screen grab. You cannot do a frame grab in camera. It has to be done post-production, and there's plenty of softwares out there to do it, but there's no setting in the menu that allows you to go in here and actually pull a frame grab individually in camera. Does the Sony A7R II record in 14-bit uncompressed RAW? Yes, it does. And it's a very simple setting. You go here into the menu and notice in the first camera folder and the first folder, scroll down to RAW file type and switch it from compressed to uncompressed. Just be prepared, walk around with really good, fast, large cards. Does the Sony A7R II have uncompressed HDMI out for 10-bit, 422? No, it's only 8-bit. It does have clean HDMI out, but it only allows 8-bit, which honestly, it's really good. Can I record at 120 frames per second on my Sony A7R II? Yes, you can. The only thing is you can only play it back at 120 frames per second. If you want to play it back in slow motion, you're going to have to do it in post-production. That way you can capture moving subject matter, hopefully much faster moving than myself. All right, so can I use my HDMI monitor hooked up to my Sony A7R II and transfer files wirelessly to my iPad? No, because once you hook up the HDMI out, that's going to disengage the other alternative, which is transferring wirelessly. So once you have HDMI out, that's it. You have to work with that. Can I shoot 4K video in full frame with full pixel readout? No, only the A7S II allows you to do that. This one will do that in Super 35 crop mode. If not, you'll get pixel binning in full 4K. So if I connect my Sony XLR-K2M microphone to my Sony A7R II, can I also use the 3.5 port on the side? No. Once you connect it to the multi-port on top, you can only use this. But guess what? The beauty of this is you also have another input here for a secondary one. So if you have an XLR adapter to 3.5, you can hook up another additional input on the side here. All right, so what is the longest I can record Ultra HD video with my Sony A7R II. Well, remember, before there was issues with overheating, so the cameras were cutting off prematurely. That's not happening anymore, especially since Sony did a firmware update. The newest firmware update is 3.30. Check it on your camera. You want to make sure you have that, and it's in the tool section area. Scroll down to version and make sure you see that that is the latest firmware update. What this is going to allow you to do is you're going to be able to record up to 30 minutes, again, of full Ultra HD video, usually working with multiple batteries. So that means you're going to have to work with the VG-C2EM vertical grip. You'll be working with 2 batteries, and it's going to allow you to do 30-minute increments, and it's not going to shut off prematurely. So you'll be able to record some beautiful Ultra HD video with your Sony A7R II. How do I record longer increments than 30 minutes in full UHD with my Sony A7R II? Well, you can't do it natively built into the camera. You're going to have to connect an external recorder. So if you look for aftermarket external recorders that work through HDMI, you will have no problem being able to record without any limit for your Ultra HD video. Well, I hope you liked this video on the Sony A7R II and found it helpful. Please share it with your fellow photographer friends. And if you have any comments or questions, place them down below. Happy shooting.